Welcome to Achieve Revision and Learning Videos. Learn with me. My name is Singh, a senior educator and mentor on important issues concerning us. Today the topic is concept of marriage. And the context is recently the Supreme Court 5-judge constitutional bench with the majority decision declined to give civil union marriage status to same-sex relationship. The court stated the decision should be made by the parliament first. On this note, let us understand the entire concept of marriage, that is evolution and changes over a period of time and the possible changes in future with respect to Indian conditions. So what is a marriage? Marriage is a social institution and the social needs always give rise to various institutions, and one of such institutions is marriage itself. And all these institutions are dynamic in nature because they tend to change with the emerging of new thoughts, new concepts, new ideas and new learnings and new experiences. Same, the marriage which used to be static has become more dynamic, and this dynamism is going to increase over a period of time. But before talking about marriage, let us see the entire evolution of human history. So who are we? Our forefathers was just one of the species in this millions of species, had got animal instincts and animal existence. Because initially our forefathers walked on 4 limbs. For example, hominid gradually evolved into bipedal, that is Homo erectus, and finally into today's men, that is Homo sapiens. That is evolution. And when the human beings became bipedal, cranial capacity was also increasing, so thinking was improving, and that thinking was converted using the free hands into converting various things into application, shaping various things. That was a differentiation that occurred over a period of time between the rest of animals and the human beings. But still, initially the prehistory men were having animal instincts. They were just living for survival, just for hunting and gathering for food, wandering from here and there, and reproduction. These are all the animal instincts. So initially the animal instincts were survival, hunter gathering, reproduction, and all these were instinctive for immediate needs and cravings. Later, with the passage of time, the Homo sapiens or the human beings emerged into permanent, semi-permanent settlement. So means settlement stage started. When we talk this from the perspective of history, this period is termed as Stone Age. And this Stone Age, the Middle Stone Age, that is the Mesolithic Age. And the time period is 10,000 BCE to 6,000 BCE. The start of what? Very rudimentary society, that is semi-permanent settlements. But when the settlement started again, now something has to be brought in order. Animal instincts has to be controlled. And there should be what proper social order has to be generated for now the eating, living and reproduction. Because if this would not have been developed, then the more powerful males would have mated with maximum number of females. Now this was had created what disorderliness in the settlements. So hence this was the start of what creating certain degree of shaping of the social order institutions with eating, dining and having reproduction. So the requirement need of a social order, because this is also a time period of the emergence of division of work between men and the women. Now to curb animal instincts and to prevent fight for the partners would have given rise to initial system of stable partners. So after the Mesolithic age, when we talk about New Stone Age, that is the Neolithic age. Neolithic age, that means 6000 BCE to 1000 BCE. This was the period of the start of civilization, beginning of civilization. That means now gradually what was also emerging, certain political institutions, the economic institutions and the social institutions, which later gave rise to what gradually bigger kingdoms and empires that we read in history. But all these institutions that are developed, whether political, economic and social, were majorly under the influence of patriarchy. Yes. So now later emerging institutions, that is political, economic and social, in which men dominated and the women were subjugated. For example, what was the history comprising of? History comprising of emergence of kingdoms and kings. So who were the kings? Males. Who were the kings? Males. Now landlords and the feudal system. Who were these? The males. Certain agriculture farmers, the males. Now trade dominated by males, crafts males, skills males. Now what we are seeing? We are seeing a society where the socio-economic division and the political power were all these in the hands of the males. Now these type of power were now required to be transferred. This also led to not only the political division of the society in terms of the power structures, it also led to the economic and social stratification. So political, economic and social stratification are now required to be maintained. Now for maintaining all these things in terms of transfer to the future generation, a institution was required. And that institution now got properly shaped in terms of a marriage system. So now let's see. So hence emerged the concept of property gradually, possessions, stratification of society and economy. That means the divisions in terms of our social and economic divisions emerged, political dominations emerged. All these are required to be controlled in a manner that the hierarchy is always maintained. And how this can be maintained when there's something system of a transfer to the next generation in the same level of hierarchy and divisions. Now, so what was the requirement of time? Requirement time was the transfer of property and inheritance. So who will be the next king? So inheritor. Yes. Who will be the next landlord? Inheritor. Who will be the next trader? Inheritor. So means inheritance. Similarly, trade, crafts and skills. Who will be inheriting? That has to be decided. Similarly, also to maintain social and economic divisions. So how to maintain such a transfer? How to maintain such a division? That means the institution of marriage played a very important role. Now, for this, marriage institution emerged, which became dominant to give rise to the concept of stable families and also to maintain social and economic stratification. So now who will be the legal heir, yes, or the successor or the inheritor? That means what was perceived, if we are going to what create an institution of marriage between men and a woman, heterosexual, so there will be a reproduction and production of a child, yes, and that child will be the natural inheritor which will be socially accepted. Now hence marriage institution was actually emerging as a powerful institution to decide the inheritance, transfer of property and also to maintain the social and economic stratification. So institutional marriage, but this institutional marriage has got patriarchy orientation because we are already seeing the entire political, economic and social power had already tilted towards patriarchy. So definitely when the marriage institution emerged, it had got patriarchy features. So let's see patriarchy features. First of all, institutional marriage was required for channelizing sexuality in a socially accepted way. So it means sexuality is a natural thing, both in men, women. Now that has to be channelized in a what socially accepted manner. So for socially accepted manner may be requiring a union which is socially accepted. So marriage was an institution which gave the social recognition to this sexual partnership between two stable partners. Okay. So first is channelizing of sexuality in a socially accepted way. Second, retention and transfer of family property to offspring from marriage. Yes. So who will be the inheritor? The offspring from such a marriage between a man and a woman, socially accepted. Now, and the reason was the fear of man from the women's sexuality. So when we talk about a women's sexual potential is far higher than the male because the women can have multiple orgasms within limited number of time or limited time. A man cannot. So that means this also brought fear in the psyche of the man that they have to control women and bring them into a bounded institution that is called marriage, which is going to force monogamy. That means there are various reasons which were emerging. First of all, channelizing sexuality, which was acceptable way, that is marriage institution. Offspring of such a marriage will be the inheritor. Fear of a man from a woman's sexuality, hence David to be brought into a bounded system marriage, forcing a monogamy. Now, hence emerged the concept of what that we Hindi we call it vansh and varis. But who is going to what carry forward the vansh and varis? Means the inheritance. Now, as the society was patriarchal, thinking was patriarchal, it was supposed to be boys only, not the girls. So hence the advantage boys now. Advantage boys, so the transfer of property to sons happened. So transfer skills and crafts to son. So it was a male-driven society. So the marriage institution was now preferring males because males were now linked with inheritance directly, whether learning the crafts, whether holding the land or becoming the kings or becoming the landlords. So all these means driven by male, yes, desire for males. So male-driven marriage system or patriarchy-driven marriage system institution emerged. Now what happened with girls? Now when I talk about girls, so they were offered in marriage, means they were transferred from the family of birth to other families. Now did the girls ask to be transferred? No. It was a patriarchal system that created a system to retain the boys within the family and transfer the girls. That means clearly indicates it was dominated by the patriarchy, the notion of patriarchy. Now hence they were to be transferred from one family to another. So what was the aspiration that was built right from the childhood of a girl. Yes, childhood of a girl. That means your aspiration is to find a good match for yourself, good partner for yourself, raise a family, raise children, serve the family, committed to husband, serve the family members. That was made the ultimate destiny of the women. Yes, shaped by the patriarchy. So in this marriage as an institution, the cultivated aspiration for the women was to find a match, give birth to children, be indoors, take care of the family, committed to the husband. So this was a role that was given to the women within the marriage, and this was the complete foundation. So that also gave rise to what, binary division of roles. Yes, in the society. Now further, now if the women is unwilling, if the women is not conforming with this status quo, if the women is wanting to remaining unmarried, or in a marriage not able to bear children, or not able to bear a boy, or in love affair, had extramarital affairs. So all these women were hashtagged with what very derogatory slangs. Okay, they were humiliated so as to force them to remain within the confines of the status quo rather than rebelling. So that means various slangs which were derogatory, which were created for the women who were not non-conformist, yes, were not conforming to the status quo. So here all these. Now, not able to bear a boy, not able to bear a children, also give men the option to marry another woman. But this was not the option for the women, only for the men. Now, when we talk about third gender, transgenders, so no marriage can happen between men and the third gender transgenders, because there will not be any offspring. But the offspring was required, yes. Offspring was required for inheritance. Offspring were required for maintaining social and economic divisions. Offspring were also required for working as a labor. So there was always a requirement of offspring. So such type of marriage between men and third gender transgenders will not be producing an offspring. So hence a no. Same sex marriage, no, because cannot produce an offspring. So now what we are saying is, now shaping of the marriage institution had got completely patriarchal colors. Okay, so preference to boys, entire thing transferred to boys, girls transferred outside, a limited role given to the women, and third gender, transgender, same sex people were not recognized at all in terms of what, equal subjects. Now here, now so what was sanctioned by the society at the time? So the need of that time, whatever emerged at the time, so that sanctioned only heterosexual marriage between the men and women, and they were also forced to keep them monogamous by making the marriage a sacred institution, means monogamy. But this monogamy more or less applied more for the women, not for the men. For example, there were various exemptions for men. When we talk about the rich men, yes. So rich men, polygamy was prevalent for the rich men. So that means they can marry more than one wife, yes. Whether landlords or maybe the kings or maybe even the richest businessmen, yes. They were mostly polygamous, or they were also keeping various women for pleasure. That is concubines. Now when we talk about the average men, they also have got an option for sexual gratification outside marriage in the form of prostitution. So for average men, sexual gratification outside marriage, so they got it from the prostitution. Now, average men also get another chance to get married, can marry another woman if there are no children from the first wife, or there is no male issue, or the wife dies. But all these things were not there with respect to women. For example, for the women, polyandry was not allowed. Polyandry was not allowed. Again, the issue was, if the woman is in multiple what relationships. So if now she is bearing a child, yes. So how to prove? So who is the father of the child? Because ultimately the issue of the transfer of the property, everything boils down to property, and there was no DNA technology to ultimately identify that. So hence everything was patriarchy and male driven and the patriarchy oriented. So hence polyandry was not accepted. Widows, when there was issue of widows, so either they were hashtagged, yes, they were kept away from the public life, they were left a secluded life, they were forced to remain unattractive, sometimes tonsuring their hair, or also what, forced to wear them what, unattractive clothes. Yes, that means a life which is filled with what, suffocation, or they were forcibly what, forced into sati, or there were also a thing called levirate. Yes. Levirate means there have been instances where the widow was forced to marry a deceased husband's son. I beg your pardon. Levirate is where a widow is forced to marry deceased husband's brother. Yes. So I again repeat, where the widow was forced to marry a deceased husband's brother. That's called levirate. So that means the options for the widows. So either remain ostracized from the society, or commit a sati, or maybe sometimes marrying the deceased husband's brother. This is called levirate. So foundations for women. Now further, now divorce was not a possibility, but a man can abandon his wife. Yes. So everything was male oriented and against the females. Now, now this marriage is also required for maintaining or sustaining social and economic divisions. For example, the marriages were not allowed in certain times, so in certain cases. Okay, they were not allowed in certain cases. For example, there is a concept of kulinism, where the women belonging to certain class status will only be married to the man of certain class status only, not a person of a lower class. Yes, that means maintaining the class status. Similarly, strict no to intercaste marriages, strict no to interreligious marriages, and pratiloma marriage. Marriage means a woman from higher caste marrying a man from a lower caste. Again, it was not allowed. And if there was a marriage and there was offspring, they were always confined to a untouchable caste. Yes, that means all these were the punishments, social punishments. So social punishments were created so as to maintain the status quo and control of the society in the hand of the male patriarchy, maintain the social divisions, economic divisions, and the political control. Okay, so marriage institution evolved just to maintain these type of divisions and also the transfer of property. Now further, now so that means that remains static for centuries. That remains static for centuries, almost till the 19th century, but the change started to happen from 19th century onwards. Why? Because various sets of colonial power came to India, and majorly the colonial power that settled in India finally was the Britishers. And with the exposure to the Western education, Western ideas, emerged various liberal thinkers in our society. So liberal thinkers, they started to think differently. So when they got exposed to liberal ideas which were emerging in the West, even when you talk about concepts like liberty, equality, fraternity emerging from the French Revolution. So all these also influenced the different level of thinking within the Indian conditions also. So change started from the influence of Western ideas and shift of focus towards women now. So now they started to shift focus towards women liberation. Now when we read history, so there comes for various reformers. For example, the most popular ones are the Raja Rammohn Roy, Vidyasagar. Okay. Now there was a person, John Eliot Drinkwater Bethune, who founded the Bethune College around 1850. Yes, the Bethune College, that means the first women college in the entire Asia. Yes. That means promotion of women education. Raja Rammohn Roy working for abolition of sati, hence liberation of women. Vidyasagar, so when you are abolishing sati, so what about a widow? So there should be permission for widow remarriage. So hence widow remarriage means all these also brought certain changes in the institution of marriage. Widow remarriage means again restarting the married life. So again a new change in the marriage institution. Now Bethune College means promotion of girls' education. And when you talk about the Phule, yes, the Jyotirao Phule and Savitri Ben Phule, they promoted what girls' education for the lower classes. That means this was a time of bringing change, yes, because the influence was coming from the emerging ideas across the world. Now, hence there was abolition of what various evil practices. So, like abolition of sati was there, abolition of female infanticide, okay, liberation of women, widow remarriage, and also gradually increasing the marriage age of girls, and hence letting them to study more and more. So definitely all these changes will be breaking the traditional mold of marriage as an institution. There will be what puncturing and a dent in the static institution. This is bound to happen. Further, the women participation was increased in the national movement. Both the Gandhian movement, their participation women, and also in the revolutionaries, even women serving the Indian National Army under Subhash Chandra Bose. That means women were getting exposed in different working areas. and especially most male dominated, even the army, under Indian National Army. Now, liberal political leaders. So, liberal political leaders. So, I also were the one of the major reasons for looking forward towards women liberation. For example, one quote from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar: "I measure the progress of a community by the degree of progress which women have achieved." Which women have achieved. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. That means a country can achieve progress, a community can achieve progress depending upon the quality of progress made by its women. So this type of thinking, this type of liberal thinking opened up various avenues for the emergence of women in different areas. And when the women were gradually getting liberated, definitely there will be a dent on the static marriage system which was patriarchy driven. Now, further, even Dr. B.R. Ambedkar stated to break the social barriers. The best way of what promoting the breaking of the caste system, the class barriers, inter-caste marriages, inter-dining. The best way of what bringing what end in the what stratified society, which was usually on the basis of just power, control, and authority, and to extract cheap labor only. There's no rationale behind this division. To break this type of division, the inter-marriages was the only way forward. So all these liberal thinkings gave rise to a better what progress for the women over a period of time, and hence challenged the traditional marriage institution. So let's see the changes which happened. Now, so post-independence, what happened? Post-independence, this speed increased for women liberation. So women encouraged in education and employment. Now, when the more and more women entering the schools, colleges, so they were getting exposure. They were entering employment, they were getting exposure. Now, they were also coming in contact with the opposite sex more and more. And that opposite sex may not be confined to their own caste only, own class only, own religion only. That can be men from what different social backgrounds. So that means intermingling with males of other caste and communities. So that means this would have given rise to what intermingling of the two different sexes, and can be from what two different what social strata. Now, so hence, instead of what preventing such type of intermingling as a progressive state, as a progressive country, we promoted this pro-choice. We promoted pro-choice. Hence, came into picture an act. Okay. Now, across the world also, impact of feminism was increasing. So hence, increased consciousness about women's right also filtering to India. Now, chances of marrying beyond caste and faith increased because of more exposure to women. So rather than confining the women to their own caste, as a state, as a progressive state, as a more open-minded state, we promoted this pro-choice. And hence came an act called Special Marriage Act 1954, where the people who are going for interfaith marriages, intercaste marriages were encouraged, yes, through this, by the protection by the state itself, registered marriage by the state itself. So that means liberation. So hence breaking the traditional mold of the marriage system. Hence also declaration by the Supreme Court, the right to marry a person of one choice is interpreted as fundamental right, one's choice. But this is applied to heterosexual marriage. Is applied to heterosexual marriage. It is right to marry a person of one's choice is a fundamental right. Now, overall, marriage, which was used to be sacred, became an institution. Institution, which is ultimately a contract. Yes, contract. Why? Because registration is required for marriage now. Okay. Now, you can break the contract by what opting for divorce, and you can also remarry. So, hence, it becomes a contract rather than so-called sacred institution, which was actually imposed by the patriarchy to what confine the women to monogamy. Yes. So, finally, changed over a period of time. So liberation of women brought various changes. Liberation of ideas, liberation of thoughts, and exposure to worldwide views brought various changes in the marriage institutions. So this change started from what? Special Marriage Act, considering the fundamental right that marrying a person of one's choice is a fundamental right. So all these were the beginning of the liberation of the marriage institution. Further, now, prominent changes came later. For example, now even the acceptance of single mothers. Now, now earlier when I used to study as a child, everywhere the father's name was required. A school, report cards, yes, signature. Teachers asking only get signature from the fathers. Okay. Now, your degree certificates, fathers, everywhere fathers. Now, no more requirement. Yes, that means now acceptance single mothers. Now, the Supreme Court directed that the name of the father may not be necessary for obtaining child's birth certificate. passport, school purposes, and even the names in the degrees. That means again this is giving forward if the woman is unmarried, if the woman is unwed mother, so that means there's no foundation on that lady. That lady's child can study anywhere, can get all the facilities. Okay, so this is also a new change in the traditional and static marriage system. Acceptance of single mothers. Now, acceptance of live-in relationships. This is again an open thing. Why the people forcing their youngsters, their young children, right, into the marriages as early as possible? Let us give them time to become mature. Let us them to decide. Yes, finally to get settled down. It depends upon their choice. So we again opted for a choice: live-in relationship. Let the people get ready mentally whether they are going to settle down, because see, marriage is just not an institution. Marriage comes with enormous responsibilities, and if the until unless people are mature, that responsibility may not be handled properly. And the live-in relationship acceptance was also required. Why? Because now most of the people are working outside their homes, far away from homes, and when they are far away from homes, they are not under direct control of their families or their grandfathers or the family's institution. There are more chances of intermingling with the opposite sexes. There are more chances of what, maybe having a love affair. So hence live-in relationship can be a normal thing. Yes, normal thing. And when they are living relationship, let them decide whether they want to get married or not. So even this was also approved. This is also a progressive way of what evolving the marriage institution. So marriage is not compulsory. Live-in relationship is also an option. So the Supreme Court in India held that living together as partners without getting married is not illegal or a criminal offense. So this is also approved. Now this approval came in what, as Khushbu versus Kanaimal case. Yes. Now even this has brought under protection of what, Domestic Violence Act. Now if a female partner in live-in relationship is facing domestic violence, so she is also protected under Domestic Violence Act 2005, like any other married women. Yes. So that means protection is also provided. Now one more thing, in case of a separation, Supreme Court added one thing, in case of a separation, so the women partner is entitled for maintenance. That means the similar type of what benefits which are there for a married women, certain type of benefits are also added to the live-in partner, especially girls there. Yes. So that means the entire system was created to promote live-in relationships. Further, even decriminalization of adultery, yes, and the progressive step. That means here, what was struck down? What was struck down? Section 497 was struck down. So earlier, when the 497 IPC was there, so what was the criminal offense? A man having a sexual relationship with a married woman, So that means the man can be sent to jail because it was a criminal offense. Now this section 497 IPC have been struck down. It's no more a criminal offense, though it is a civil offense, because here it can be the basis for divorce. It can be basis for divorce, but no more a criminal offense. So here let's see this. Why it is not a criminal offense? Let's see the statement by the Supreme Court in the Joseph versus Union of India case. A crime is something which is committed on the society, but adultery is more of a personal issue. Adultery is a personal issue. Crime is done on a society. Adultery doesn't fit into the concept of crime, so that would otherwise invade the extreme privacy of the marriage. However, it continues to extend as civil law. It can be seen as a civil matter, where it can be a ground for divorce. Now, what happens after adultery is committed? What happens? Now, whatever happens after adultery is committed should be left to the decision of the husband and wife, whether they want to remain in the marriage or they want to move ahead, yes, with the divorce. So, it should be left to the husband and wife to decide, and it's something which should only involve their personal discretion. So what we are seeing, the marriage institution, the concept of what sexual relationship in the society is also evolving over a period of time with changing dynamics. So that means the post-independence pro-choice and Special Marriage Act, which allowed interfaith, intercaste marriages. Then when we talk about, yes, single acceptance of single mothers, acceptable. Now, decriminalization of adultery, acceptable. So various positive changes happened over a period of time. Now, live-in relationships, acceptable. Further, what the court stated, a husband is not the master of his wife. The judgment places reliance in the fact that women should not be considered as the property of their husbands or fathers. So women are not owned by the males. Women are not owned by the males, neither husbands or by fathers. They have got an independent existence, independent decision making. And also another progressive step was decriminalizing homosexuality. In this prominent case called riteshsingh Johar versus Union of India. So when homosexuality was accepted now, it was decriminalized. So IPC 377 was decriminalized. So a landmark judgment was passed by Supreme Court. It ruled that the application of Section 377 to homosexual acts between consenting adults was unconstitutional. That means even this was approved. Homosexuality was approved. That means same-sex relationship is approved now. That means same-sex people can have live-in relationship now. That means it is also a liberation of the LGBTQIA community. So now, you see, so the repealing of the Section 377 and the decriminalization of homosexuality in India is a significant stride for the LGBTQIA plus community. So that means in brief, so L is lesbian. That means a women having attraction to another women. Now gay, a man having attraction towards another man, same sex. Now bisexual. So bisexual people who got attraction for either of the sex. Now we're talk about trans or transgenders. They are born of a particular gender, but they've got tilt towards the other gender. For example, when we talk about the trans men. So trans men at birth, by sex is a girl. By sex is a girl. But this girl ultimately shows what more manly features, more manly attitudes. Okay, that means have got manly traits. Okay, that means sex assigned as at birth is girl, but show the traits of a male. It's called trans men. Okay, so transgender. Similarly, trans women. So sex assigned at birth is male for trans women, but shows feminine qualities. So this is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. The queer is strange. It has been used in a derogatory terms, but ultimately symbolizes combination of all of these. Any queer. Then you talk about I is intersex. When a person has got both the male and female biological features. And A is asexual. That means a person not having any sexual orientation, no sexual feelings, asexual. And plus if any new category is to be added. So that means a community which was neglected over a period of time was decriminalized on the basis of what IPC 377 was, with the removal of homosexuality, can have their relationships. With the coming of live-in relationships, can live together also. That means liberation. Now, when the LGBTQ community can have a live-in relationships, can be homosexual is now accepted, then why they are demanding registration? Yes, same-sex marriage registration, because marriage brings certain additional benefits. Okay? So demand the same-sex relationship to be recognized as civil union under Special Marriage Act 1954. This was a demand which went to the court, which I started with. Which went to the court. So what was the expectation of the 5-judge bench would be bringing a change or talking about a certain degree of amendment in what Special Marriage Act, or reading the law differently by studying a neutral way. Yes, by studying a neutral way. Even in the Special Marriage Act, whatever civil union is approved between a man and a woman, it has to be gender neutral. So here, the expectation that a 5-judge bench would give the Special Marriage Act a law that allows any two people to marry and make it gender neutral, rather than a marriage only between a man and a woman. That was expected by from the Constitutional Bench, from the same-sex couples having live-in relationships, that their live-in relationships can be upgraded to a recognized marriage. But that, as I told you, the majority decision stated that it should be going to the parliament for decision. But a majority decision stated that this should be discussed and taken up in the parliament. Now, why civilian unions or why marital status is being demanded by the same-sex people? Because civil unions always bring benefits like inheritance rights, property rights, parental rights, that means adoption rights, yes, adoption rights. Okay, employment benefits to spouses, where both the spouses are being hired by an institution, yes. Joint parenting, yes. So all these are the benefits which come with the marriage. Yes. More social acceptance, so marriage is more socially accepted. Now, also can transfer the asset in the name of the spouses or buying the property in the name of the spouses, okay, without adding any further tax. Sometimes what family plans are being launched by the insurance policies, family plans for your medical insurances, family plans also launched by for various consumer companies, family packages, even pensions. All these ultimately are being provided or reaching when there is a proper stable marriage. Even option to file joint tax returns. So there are various possibilities, various benefits which are there when there's a marriage has been recognized, yes, for the married couples. Even access to family courts in case of disputes. So family courts, what facilities are also there to look into the problems within the married couples. Okay. So all these means access to the family court. Even child adoption. So in case the issue of child adoption comes, so what is the law speaks? Law speaks that the couple should be at least 2 years in stable marriage. Now, if the same-sex couple or even unmarried couples are having the desire to adopt a child, so that is not a possibility. So what we are talking about, the recognition of a relationship into a civil union as marriage brings various additional benefits. First of all, social recognition comes first. Now, when the social recognition comes first, even the parents who are hiding their children, what gender preferences or maybe orientation, they will be more willing to come forward and in open, yes, and promote the choice for their children, yes. So that's why it's required. Now, one last thing I want to add here, which the court stated that even though same-sex relationships are not being seen, are not therefore registered as marriage, but what a transgender person can do, transgender person can, in a heterosexual relationship, can come into a marriage. So for example, what we have done so far, a recap first. A recap is human evolution led to the creation of institutions. One such institution was the marriage. Institutions change over a period of time with a new thinking, new ideas, changes over a period of time, experiences, exposures. Yes, all these brings change in institutions. Similarly, Indian marriage institution has also changed over a period of time. It was static till the 19th century. With the coming of Western exposure, liberal thoughts, emergence of social reformers, bringing of various progressive acts, gradually the women liberation started, exposure started, intermingling started, and hence now the traditional static patriarchal system of marriage was jolted over a period of time. Change happened over a period of time. So pro-choice we opted for Special Marriage Act. Live-in relationship we opted for. Single mother we accepted. We decriminalized adultery. We decriminalized homosexuality. That means the institution of marriage is now very open. Now the only last remaining thing is the recognition of same-sex marriage in a country. Maybe this is not a full stop. This is just a comma. Maybe the court would have decided to give this option to the parliament, yes, to come with a legislation, which because parliament legislation has got a wider acceptance. Okay, if the parliament is not able to do it, maybe the activist or maybe the rights, yes, LGBT rights people and other supportive people will again be knocking at the Supreme Court, and maybe the Supreme Court later will be saying yes, because they can say yes because they had given the parliament a chance to come first. If the parliament is not coming, then even the parliament cannot say that judiciary is doing judicial activism, okay? Because the ball is now in the parliament court. Now one last thing to add here is, though the same-sex people cannot marry, but a transgender person willing to enter the heterosexual marriage can marry. This was statement given by the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud. Now what states that if a transgender person is in a heterosexual relationship, wishes to marry their partner, and both of them are compatible, that means each other requirements. So such a marriage would be recognized at the law by the laws governing marriage. For example, a transgender man has a right to marry a cisgender woman. The meaning here is cis means straight, yes. Straight, yes. So that means the person here is not trans, yes, is straight. So whatever gender assigned at birth, the same type of gender feeling is there. That is called straight. So a transgender man. So what is a transgender? Who is a transgender man? So transgender man is trans man. Let's see. Trans man is by birth the sex is female, but has got all the male traits. So this person having male traits can here marry a female. Can marry a female. This is allowed. Now similarly, a transgender woman has the right to marry a cisgender man, straight man. So transgender woman is basically the trans women. That is, sex's birth is male, but now shows the female attributes. So this person having female attributes can marry a straight man if both of them are compatible. Yes, both of them are compatible. Similarly, a trans man and transgender women can also marry. So these type of marriages are allowed. So only the last remaining hurdle is same-sex marriage is not yet been approved. So this was entire concept of marriage. So please share with as many people as possible because it was explained with all the major dimensions for the simplistic understanding. So please carry this video forward, share, subscribe, and also press the bell icon so that you can get regularly more and more informative videos. So I am your guide, I am your educator, Ritesh Kumar Singh. Thank you for seeing the video.